Can you feel the love?
For animation.
For animation.
Yeah.
It'll break your hand.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2019 edition of the Up and Coming Artist Podcast. I'm Ben, an animator.
And I'm Christian, a photographer. Wow, we haven't given up yet.
We're still here.
With such gusto.
That's right. You know, I just have so many big expectations for 2019, and I think you might as well.
Well, I mean, you haven't listened to it yet, but as you'll notice when you're listening to this, I wasn't present at the recording of this podcast.
Christian, you mind explaining that to everyone?
Okay, well, it's a crazy story. Let's start off by prefacing this story by saying it ends with a proposal. That's right. I proposed to my girlfriend, and it was the worst day possible for me to have done this, but I did it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
That's the kind of man I am. I wanted to propose on the beach at sunset, and I decided to do it on the shortest day of the year. I'm not joking.
Like, the sun is going down, and you're trying to get there, right?
That's right. She works, and she decided to stay late that day, even though I was insisting that we leave on time.
Because she has no idea, right?
Of course. It was supposed to be a super surprise, and it was, so success there. But yeah, I had to push her via annoying text messages to get out of work at a reasonable time. I rushed over to pick her up. I was cursing the sun the entire way there. And then it was so stupid. And then I wanted to do it at this place that was over all these rocks. So we're like hiking up a cliff face, trying to get there before the sun goes down. It was just the biggest pain ever.
Gosh.
She was not having it. She wanted to have like a chill day, and I was now dragging her out into the cold. Finally, we got there. I got the drop on her.
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty
I
exciting.
did drop the ring in the sand.
Oh, you weren't kidding when you had the drop on her.
Nope.
Oh, you dropped it on her.
I wish. It went right into the sand. I had to pull it out. And then it went on her finger, safe and sound, where it has been ever since.
Oh, well, that's good that she said yes.
Yes, there would have been a bummer ending to this story.
Well, I guess that is a pretty good excuse for you not to show up to the recording of this podcast.
Yes, speaking of recording, if you haven't noticed, maybe, the audio in this recording is a little bit better. Well, at least this section of it.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, we won't know. We're trying out some new audio equipment because at the time of this recording, we were using a condenser microphone, which, as you guys know, picks up everything. And so you'll hear everything in this restaurant. I love the Kettle. It's a great place in Manhattan Beach. I was able to meet up with a fantastic animator friend of mine named Cassady Blake-Christo. Wonderful place, wonderful day. What better way to start off our Cheese Wad podcast in 2019 than our worst audio ever? But this podcast is full of tons of shout-outs.
Shout out!
And plenty of references to 90s Disney and inspirations and experimental animation and things that Cassady wants to take animation to in the future. So super exciting as we look into the new year. I hope you guys all enjoy it.
Buckle down and don't drop your ring in the sand.
Welcome to the Up and Coming Animation Podcast.
Oh, yeah. Wait, that's not how this goes.
No? Oh, I'm thinking of somebody else.
My other favorite podcast.
Yes. Should we shout out?
Shout out? We could do a shout out. Go ahead.
Shout out to the Bangkok Brothers Animation Podcast.
Shout out. It's awesome. You should check it out.
Yeah.
But first, check out my podcast.
First check out this one.
This is I'm Ben. I'm an animator, and welcome to the Up and Coming Artist Podcast. And I'm here today with my good friend Cassady Blake-Christo. Yeah, woo! Yes! He's not cheering for himself. Yeah.
The whole restaurant stood up in applause.
Yes, and this copyrighted music stopped.
Yes, exactly.
I wish. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, how you doing, man?
I'm doing really well.
Right before the podcast, like literally 3 seconds ago, Cassady was showing me an amazing Christmas animation he was doing.
Thank you.
And that's how I want to get into this podcast, because I know Cassady as an animator, a story artist, and a self-proclaimed taco enthusiast.
Yes.
I thought that was pretty cool. But how would you describe yourself and your art?
Animation enthusiast and taco enthusiast is a great way to describe myself. Anything 2D. I love 2D, man. 3D is cool. Toy Story's the bee's knees.
Yeah.
I almost said it. I didn't say it.
It's okay. We got harmonic cussing.
Oh, that's
on there.
harmonic cussing. I like. Yeah, trademark that.
Yeah.
Anything 2D, man. Like I love it. Like I know you and me have talked about like pencil on paper. Like that's where my love came from. Like,
Yeah.
cliche Renaissance Disney fan right here. Like, but just looking at those old drawings, like that's what inspires me. Like a Glen Keane drawing. Gotta say Glen Keane.
Yeah. Not even on the same podcast, but we gotta do it too.
We gotta do it.
Yeah.
I don't know, any of the 9 Old Men or like old Warner Brothers stuff, like that's what's waking up, like flashback to 7-year-old me, like I'm the kid that woke up at like 6 a.m. on a Saturday just because that's when I woke up.
Yep.
And you turn on, I think it was Cartoon Network used to show the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
And that was so
really early.
so great. I loved it. There's just, I remember the one segment where it's Yosemite Sam and Bugs Bunny, and they're in the desert, and of course Yosemite Sam is chasing Bugs, and Bugs goes into like this castle, I think, and like Yosemite Sam tries to go in after, so he opens the door only to find another door, and Bugs Bunny is nailing doors behind doors behind doors, and that's just what hooked me. Like I love stuff like
And
that.
that's what nailed animation.
Yes,
for you.
that's what nailed it, and opened the door to animation.
Oh.
Let the record state that the whole restaurant went, oh.
Yeah. And then fireworks started going on.
Yes.
I don't even know where that guy got the taco truck.
A taco truck came hurling in.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. So was it always animation for you?
I don't know, like you hear, like I hear a lot like, oh, I knew what I wanted to do since I was 3. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was 3.
Yeah.
I just knew I liked cartoons. I didn't know that I wanted to do animation until I was, I feel like a phony, until I was like 18.
Oh, really?
Because I drew a lot in elementary school, and then some in middle school, and then I think I stopped. I stopped like all through high school. Art wasn't my focus, so it was just, I think I did a lot of sports. I was into physical activity. So it stopped, and then my cousin came over with his girlfriend one night, and I was a senior in high school, and keep in mind he's like 35, but he's like, I want to watch The Lion King. I'm like, okay, I have it on VHS, here we go. And I'm watching it, I'm just like, oh, I forgot how good of a movie this is. Like, this is really cool. Like, I love Scar. He's just a disgusting bad.
Yeah.
Cool. And then after that, I ended up looking up The Lion King on Facebook, and I found this, like, Andreas Deja, like, fan, like, thing, but they were also putting on, like, a show of his, and they showed all these, like, concept arts of Scar. I was like, this is really cool. So I started investigating like behind the scenes of Lion King and all the behind the scenes of like Beauty and the Beast and all this stuff, and I was like, wait a second, like I'd like to do this. Like, I've done this before, like animation. I can get paid to draw. That makes sense. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
But by then it was like too late to apply to any colleges. I was like, well, I'm gonna go to JC's and learn what I can there.
Yeah.
And then 3 years spent there, and I transferred to Fullerton, and that's where I met you.
Yes. And we actually we took a lot of classes together before we really, like, became, like, tight friends.
Yeah,
It was kind of funny. Like, I was always in the front, and you in the back, or vice versa on some classes.
Oh, yeah. We took the 3D one,
Yeah,
right?
3D animation.
And then the life drawing.
Yeah.
That was the same
like the
semester,
same
right?
semester,
Yeah.
yeah. And then we didn't hang out until, like, 2 years after that when we were in the stop-motion class, I think.
Right.
The strong brotherly bond was formed over Roly Polioli meets Black Hole Sun.
Yes.
With Napoleon. If you haven't listened to that podcast, go
Yes,
back
go
and
listen to that
it.
one.
That class was amazing.
That class was like a drunken haze.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
was.
You got up super early. Like, I foolishly live in LA and then commuted to Fullerton every day for class. And it was great. Like, I love Fullerton. But, like,
That's a long way.
yeah. Waking up at, like, 6, leaving at, like, I should have woken up at 5, but leaving at 6 and leaving at 6:10, eating breakfast in the car, driving to Fullerton, and then having a class at whatever time it was. Parking, I would park far away because I didn't want to pay for parking.
Yeah, well, even if you did, you couldn't get a spot anyway.
No, you couldn't, never. So yeah, by the time we get to class, it would just be a drunken, tired haze, and roly-poly and black hole sun seemed to fit perfectly.
Yes, with stop-motion epoxy smells.
Yes,
and
oh
like,
my god. Oh, that epoxy.
It was so bad.
That's so gross. I just remember mixing in my fingers. She was just like, you have to mix it up really well in order for it to work. But it's a time-sensitive thing, so don't mix it too much, but stick it on there just in time.
Yes.
But if you don't mix it enough, it's not going to work. Okay. Cool.
Okay. And it smells like garbage.
Yes. On top of that, your nose hairs will burn.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my god.
But that was a good class. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, that was good. And since we're just kind of throwing out all these terms, I'm sure everyone is aware, but I just met someone the other day who didn't even know what stop-motion animation was.
Oh.
So could you just for a quick second talk about what 2D animation is, like hand-drawn, and CG, and stop-motion, just briefly?
Okay. So, 2D character animation. So that's like, I don't know who said it, but it's kind of like you're an actor with a pencil, right? Like your performance is put on pages, and like we could get into like what keys are and breakdowns and in between.
Maybe we will later.
We will, yeah. So there's so many components to animation in general, but 2D animation, like my first 2D animation experience was with Brian Kennan. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I learned how to flip pages. Like that's where they have the old Disney desks. Like you flip pages between your fingers, like learn what keys are in a breakdown.
So each page is a new drawing.
Yeah,
right?
it's a sequence. Like your drawings are going to tell a story, and that's what a key drawing is—a storytelling drawing. And a breakdown is how to tell that story, and in between those drawings, make it more fluid. But Brian would say, I think, filming on ones or betweens was unnecessary. Yeah, he would say stuff like that. I don't know, is that a good description what 2D
That
is?
is. And since we're talking about it, I remember before we were really hanging out, the very first time I remember seeing your work was in that class. Professor Cannon showed your work as like a good example. It was like a dog running.
Oh, yeah,
and you did like, I think, a dust cloud leaving.
Dust cloud.
Yeah, could you explain that for a second?
Yeah, sure. Brian had it signed, it was an attitude walk, I think. And we had just gotten off the just a regular walk cycle, but this was like your character had to cross one page to the other. And I, being naive about how much work this would take, thought, I'm going to do a dog, but like make it really interesting. Like somebody's throwing a frisbee across the screen and he wants to chase after it. So basically, I had this quadruped of a thing, and I didn't know how to make the four legs move all at once and make it look good. So Brian was like, just research Looney Tunes and make the legs scramble. So that's what I did. And the dog scrambles backwards, he bends down, jumps up, and runs off screen. And trailing behind him are three little plumes of dust that swirl. And that was a really fun exercise. I remember breaking my back though carrying so much paper because we had the hole punch at school ourselves. But yeah, that was great. I remember, I did it. I roughed it out. I did everything. And I remember I came to school on a Saturday, and I had the keys to the classroom. Nobody else was in there, and I sat there in the dark with a little desk lamp above me, cleaning up every frame. I was like, I'll make this dog look nice. Like, and then once I was done and I filmed it, I was like, well, it doesn't look much different than the roughs. That was worth it.
I don't know about that, because that was used, and it probably still is used by Canon to show like a good example of a character walk. That's great.
I hope so. Thank you, man. Like, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then to answer my own question, CG or 3D animation, for those who don't know, is basically like, think Toy Story. It's computer-generated images. So instead of taking photos of things that actually exist, like this ketchup bottle that you guys can't see, but it's right in front of me. If I was doing stop motion animation, I would literally just take a photo with a camera of this Heinz ketchup, sponsor, and I'd move it, take another photo, move it, take another photo with my hand out, of course, of the frame, and it would look like it's moving. And 3D is basically doing that with things that aren't physical but are just in the computer. So that makes sense.
a real life puppet versus a computer generated puppet.
Exactly.
You know? Like, I guess the distinction would be 2D, you're drawing your frames, and CG and stop motion, you're manipulating your character through frames. Like,
And then you can do 2D puppets. Like,
Yeah.
We'll get into that later with a project that we both did together.
yeah.
And yeah, but were you always like, okay, I'm going, because we kind of pseudo met in the CG animation class, but you were always kind of 2D then, correct? Or were
Yeah.
you? Were you questioning? Because everywhere in the US, at least, that's a major studio, is 3D.
Right. I think going into that class, like the intro, it was intro to 3D, right?
Yeah.
I had a lot of hope.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I know, like, Maya's the big thing, like, everybody needs to learn Maya at least once. Like, okay, cool, like, and I can learn to animate this way too. And I just come off of, like, Brian Kennan's 2D class, and it was like, I got that down. I want to get this down.
Yeah.
It's not what I expected. I respect the hell out of it. It's just not necessarily for me. Like, I just took the class now, the online one. Shout out to Anim Squad. It's a class that you guys can sign up for. It's put on by Disney animators. It's really cool. They teach you CG animation as well, but it's online, so you don't have to go anywhere. You can do it from your home. It's great. But my heart is in 2D. CG is interesting. It's just, like, I was taking, like, Carol's class. Like, I miss drawing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I miss the most. Like, and I think the last 3 weeks she let us do character animation. She gave us the Sony rig for the zombie.
From Hotel Transylvania,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
She used that. It's funny. David Mungia, I think he sent me the link to one of her YouTube videos from that class. She was like, here's some student work. And I'm on there.
Oh, really?
The zombie walk. I'm like, cool.
Dude, that's awesome.
I had no idea what I was
legacy
doing.
is living on.
Yeah, it's still living on with the teacher. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was fun.
Well, that brings up a good question. So what would you say are the biggest differences for you personally from hand-drawn to 3D?
I think, like, with 2D, you have to think of everything as, like, a real world, you know? So you're creating this... It's gonna sound weird. You're creating this 3-dimensional character on a 2D plane. You gotta make it look like this thing is living and it can turn and you can see every aspect of it. The CG, like, it's already there. Like, you can turn the character around already. Like, you don't have to draw anything. So, it's a matter of, like, 2D, you're creating it all. 3D, it's already there. You're creating the performance. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big turning point for me. Like, it's drawing and creating versus manipulating.
Yeah, articulating. Yeah, exactly. Because for those listening at home, there's other people on the CG pipeline who have already created the character, for example, or rigged it, which we'll not talk about here. It's too complicated.
Yeah, rigging was not something I was interested in. And
Yeah.
everybody was like, just hit the automatic rig button. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. But just to go back to what you're just talking about, so you've done 2D and it's great. You've done 3D and it still lives on from school.
Yes.
The student examples. But then you even went back just recently to kind of reintroduce yourself to 3D. So could you talk about that as like a little bit more? Things you learned, things you didn't know from the first time you took it?
So, okay. So I'll talk about, like, the first time I did CG was in Carol's class, and she handed us these, like, rigs, like the zombie one, and I think she showed us videos on how to do a walk cycle and, like, an attitude walk, and I did the regular walk, and it was, like, okay, it was a big buff guy, but then she gave us the zombie one, and I was trying to, like, how do I get this guy to look like a zombie? I'll drag his leg, I'll make his arms flail, I'll make his jaw open up wide. Like, that was all me, like, figuring it out with keys. Like, I had no idea how to make it go slow in or slow out or, like, speed up. It was like, I'm trying to take what I know from 2D and apply it over here, and it's working, but not as good as it could. So that was, like, what was that, 2015?
When we took that class? Yeah.
So that was 3 years ago. So fast forward to now, 3 years later, I was turned on to CG character animation by Anim Squad, and I had seen, like, reels and stuff, and people like really talking this thing. Because there's Anim Squad, there's Anim School, there's I Animate.
Yeah.
There's all those online things.
Yeah, doing well. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our waiter.
We should learn his name.
We should introduce him. Turns out he's an animator.
Yeah. This is our future. Working at the Kettle.
The Kettle. You guys accepting apps?
Yeah.
So I signed up for the Anim Squad class, and we had this really cool teacher, Mr. Carr.
Mr. Carr. Professor Carr.
He animated stuff like from Bolt. He did like the pigeons and stuff, and he showed us that. He did a lot of cool stuff. And he introduced us to basically the graph editor. I didn't know what the graph editor was. I had no idea how much play that thing had when it came to animation. Like, it's basically like, imagine you're back in geometry class in high school, and you're like mapping out points and coordinates, and you've got the squiggly lines on the graph. Like, that's basically the graph editor. And if you manipulate that in a right way, you can get your character to do whatever you want. So he talked about like when he worked at DreamWorks, he had this amazing animator he would talk about. He was like, and he would just straight animate the character with the keys, and he's like, it would look really good, but he would be there forever, like throughout the night, versus someone who you could just straight animate from the graph editor and get your work done so much faster that you'd be able to go home. And he would say you'd be able to go home and see your kids and wife. Your wife.
Yeah. Which do you want to do?
Yeah, you typically want to do that. So, yeah, the graph editor is something that was huge that was introduced. I still can't manipulate it all that well. It's really hard. It just takes someone who knows tech and has the patience for that. And I have like a little bit of patience, but not all of it. So that's why like I still stick with 2D. I just find that more fun. Like I can create on my own versus let me figure out the math and move this, drag this lines over. It's like you gotta know your coordinates too, X, Y, Z coordinates. And there's also, he was teaching me about scripts. Scripts are a whole other thing. Like take Moana for example. Like say she has like a bracelet on her wrist. There's a script that would like tell the bracelet to move naturally when you move the hand, versus like it just staying static. Like it will flow like with her. It will have weight. Like there's a script for that. Anybody who knows CD is probably like, he has no idea what he's talking about. But like, that's what I've come to understand. There's script, there's a graph editor, there's so many plugins, there's so many different things you can do. And it's really awesome. It's really cool. So if you're interested in CG, I recommend any online class like Anim Squad.
Well, and I think it's cool too that even though like you knew what you wanted to do, like 2D was really always kind of more of your thing, but the fact that you're still pursuing to get better at animation in general, specifically in this case 3D, I think that's really awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Education doesn't stop with school, man. Like, always learn. Like, it's like, I don't know how to do anything. Like, I don't even know how to draw. Like, I need to go back and research and look. Like, just because you leave school, like, doesn't mean you should stop learning. Like, I don't know who, it's a great quote, I don't know who said it. It's like, I never let school get in the way of my education. Like, always educate yourself.
That's good.
Yeah.
And would you say that's what makes the difference between people who really have the skills and people who are just like, I kind of like her?
Yeah, I would say it's a huge factor. It's all about your drive, you know? I could sit back and watch all the cartoons I want and be like, wow, this is so great, I can do this. But unless I put it to practice, I'm not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, just get up and do it. Like, if there's something that can be done today, then do it today. Don't leave it for tomorrow.
Right. Well, that's awesome, man. And that kind of, speaking of school, kind of leads me into, there was 1 year where you were doing pre-production and production at the same time. Yeah. And you were doing 2 different films. So first, can you talk about the first one, which is your pre-production film? And then we'll talk about the one with David.
Okay. That was a crazy semester.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. 3 days.
Yeah, normally for people listening at home, you take those classes sequentially. You do not try to take them at the same time.
No, you don't take them at the same time because you lose your mind. And I lost my mind. Trust me.
And that's when we became good friends.
Yes, exactly. That's when Ben and I realized we're on the same frequency of insanity?
Yeah.
Cool. This was taking pre-production for the second time, actually. Because I made a film the year before, I finished post, and I took pre again with Mike Dietz, awesome animator.
Yes.
Like, probably he's the man, okay?
Yes, I think he's mentioned in like every podcast.
Is he?
Because he's so good.
He is so good.
He's our Glenn
Forget
Keane.
Glenn Keane.
Yeah.
Mike Dietz. I was taking pre-production with him for a film. I think I just called it Remember. It's a film about. It's really abstract, so I'll try to explain it as best as I can. It's a film about an old lady, and it's her and her dog, and we're entering her life in her house, and she has all these pictures on her wall. Like, just, grandmas are, they have pictures everywhere. So she's packing up her pictures, and she's putting them in a box on her right that says to keep, or a box on her left that says trash or throw away. And as she pulls down these pictures, she glances at them, and basically we enter her mind, and there's this little mustached guy, and it's a black background, and he's white outlined. And he is running around trying to turn on these light bulbs in her mind, with quotes in her mind, trying to get her to remember who's in this picture, who's in this photograph, why is this important to her. If he gets the light to turn on, underneath the light will be the person in the picture, like he's illuminating this person, hence jogging her memory. She puts it in the keep pile. He pulled the light bulb of the dog, so she would remember who the dog was. And the dog is also running around in the mind with this little mustache. So there's like a montage of like pictures she pulls down, and then she ends up pulling down this one picture, and we don't see the picture yet. We can kind of see it's kind of blurry, and she's looking at it, kind of puzzled, and we cut to inside her mind, and this little guy's running around, and he tries to click the light bulb, but it's not turning on for some reason, and he's getting really sad, and she throws it away in the trash pile, and as she throws it away in the trash pile, he starts to fade. The dog sees this, the dog in the mind sees this, and runs really fast towards the little mustache guy and pushes him. Basically runs at him and pushes him, so he goes underneath the light bulb and is illuminated. So she will then remember. So it turns out he was what she needed to remember. She pulls up the picture, and we see the picture is a wedding picture, and the guy, it's her back in the day marrying her husband, who's no longer with her, but he looks like the guy in her head.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So then she puts in the keep pile, basically.
Yeah.
So that was the concept.
That was so good.
Thanks. There was talks of doing it in, like, I want to do it stop motion, like the old lady pulling out pictures in stop motion, and then the cut would be 2D with the little guy with the black background, the white outline. So yeah, that was pre-production.
That's awesome. Real quick on that before we move on to the next film. What goes into making a film, like an animated film? So like that, and I know you didn't get to fully animating it, but in terms of that class, what are the things you need to do?
Like Mike would go over like the different stages. So like, but the first thing for us, like personally, was to create at least 5 pieces of concept art that. It was like basically like one beat board sort of thing, like just a concept, like showing like this is what it looks like, these are the characters. Get a mood from this, a feeling from this drawing, like this is the mood. And then we'd narrow it down from there. So like I had drawn a bunch, and I decided to pick this little guy with the light bulb, so that was mine. So once we found out like this is the concept or idea we wanted to go with, we needed to create like a script / like backgrounds. You have to figure out who your characters were, like a character-driven story is the best, right? I think Joel talked about that on his. Shout out. Gotta create the characters first, not the world.
This is your captain speaking, and I interrupt this podcast with a personal plug for episode 5 of the podcast with Joel Zamudio. Captain out.
So yeah, you need a concept art, your idea, script, background for your characters. Then you need to create more concept art. Like you can't just work off the one. So you need to create your world, and then Mike would have us do like a map of the world, like a layout. So I did like a layout of her apartment. Like this idea went through so many different iterations. Like oh my gosh, like I had her walking through her whole apartment. I had her going through her refrigerator. I had post-it notes posted everywhere. That was a different idea. Her post-it notes would help her remember. And then, but doing that helped me narrow it down to, no, she's just going to be facing a wall. So you have to do all that hard stuff in order to get to your easiest solution, basically.
Yep.
And then we did beat boards. Beat boards are like, I don't know if there's a set number. I think we did 5 again. It was just 5 storytelling boards that showed what was happening.
Yeah.
That told the story best without revealing too much or too little. And then we moved on to, I think it was just, we worked on our boards. Boards was like a big thing. That took up a lot of time in pre-production. And that takes up a lot of time when you're making a film, too.
Yeah.
Like, you have to figure out your board. Like, I think Mike said, it's not storyboarding, it's like storyboarding. You're going to reboard a million times.
Yeah.
You know? Like, just to figure it out.
Could you talk about for a second what storyboarding is?
Yeah. Storyboarding, and it's, I think breaking it down to its easiest terms, it's just like, it's a way to tell your story through sequential drawings, but not, I mean, boards are practically animated now, but not animated. Like, they would have like a, I don't know, like
Index card.
Yeah, like a 3x5 index card with the drawing on it, and they would pin it onto these boards, and you'd have these guys with their long sticks pointing to each board, and they would basically tell the story through the boards. Like, a board artist will act out like all the different characters, trying to convey the mood to you. You know, it's like the original Hakuna Matata, like,
Yeah.
let me go through this thing.
Yeah.
It's telling your story through these through these images, and thus these images get translated into the film via like an animatic, or maybe the board. Back in the day, boards would pass on to an animator, and they would look at it and translate these boards into animation.
So then you did that in that class for that film.
Yeah, we had to create the boards for the film. That took a while. A lot of boards. You should always board more than you have to. That's what I'll say. That way you can throw out what you don't need. You know, I would hate to have more than not have enough.
Yeah.
So you board more than you need. You create an animatic, and an animatic is basically the movie version of your boards. So luckily everything's digital now, and you can put your boards into, say, like Premiere, and you can time it out. Timing is like really important. Like, you can also click through your boards one at a time, like a PowerPoint. But I think the assignment was animatic, and you timed out your boards, and you stood up there and you pitched it. You know, you didn't pin up your drawings like I was just talking about. You put it up on the projector and you pitched it. You did the voices yourselves.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that was pre-production.
That was pre-production, and the next step would have been animation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a little bit of editing and sound.
Exactly. So then at the same time as you were doing that class, you were doing a film with our mutual friend David Munguia.
It's a shame we know him, bro.
Yeah, I know. I should cut this out.
Just cut it, yeah.
Yeah. You're doing a film with another guy.
Some hack.
Shout out. But usually those films in production, you don't usually do it with somebody else, at least in school.
No, you don't.
Yeah, so how did that come about?
Okay. So over winter break, my mom actually, it's so random, she emailed me a contest that Elton John was putting on.
Oh my gosh, it all ties back to The Lion King.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she emailed me this contest he was putting on, and he wanted to make music videos for 3 of his songs. And it was like one wanted to be live action, one wanted to be, I can't remember what the other one wanted to be, but then one wanted to be animation. And she was like, you gotta do this contest, like just follow the rules and apply, and maybe you'll get picked. So I was like, this is really cool. I can do it, but I want to do it with somebody else or try, and I know David. We cemented our friendship over the hazy 24-hour animation contest.
Yeah.
Good Lord, we lost our minds. He's like, he'll probably be interested in doing it with me, so I let him know, and he was excited to hear about it. And so we both agreed to do it, and the song Elton wanted it to be, I know him by a first name basis, clearly.
Yes.
Elton wanted the new song.
Yeah.
He wanted his music video to be for Rocket Man.
Oh, nice.
So me and David met up like once a week, I think, to talk about the film and concepts and what we could do. I think our first meeting was at Panera Bread. That's where it all started.
Yes. The source of many business meetings
Exactly.
and animation pre-production
And
planning.
cold sandwiches.
Yes.
So we met up the whole winter break. We would keep meeting up and we would discuss, like over text or phone call. We would talk about our concept and what we wanted to do. And basically we had fleshed out this idea about a drawing of a little astronaut that a little boy had done, and it comes to life. And it basically coincides with the real life of a father and son and his wife. Basically, because the song is about a man leaving for work and like he's missing a lot at home, basically.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be a long, long time. Like that's the lyric, you know.
Uh-huh.
So we took that and we kind of ran with it. And what made ours, I'm gonna say it made ours unique. I think it was very unique.
Yeah.
We combined live action footage with 2D. So we're compositing. I've never composited before. That's where David's really skill set came in. He's a great compositor. We translated these animations onto live action backgrounds, and got to bring him up again. Mike Dietz helped us out. We asked to meet with him over winter break, and he met up with us, and he helped us solidify the story and helped it make sense more. So winter break ends, and me and David are in ceramics together, first day of the new semester of spring. It's a nightmare because beginning ceramics, I guess, requires a lot of ceramics.
It does.
Yeah. I had no idea. She was like, you're going to be throwing 50 pots your first week, and we're just going to up it from there. I'm like, you want me to do this on top of my other workload?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So me and David left that class, and we were, like, panicking. Like, what do we do? Like, we have to find another class. So we went and we tried to talk to Chuck, and I don't know if you know Chuck Grieve. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I do, but
He's hard to
people,
talk to sometimes just because
Yeah.
he's so intimidating. So we pitched him as our idea, and he was like, well, you could do the independent study with me and create this film, but I think you would benefit more from your peers giving you feedback. So I recommend you taking this production class with Wendy Grieve. She's a great teacher too.
Yeah.
Wendy, another story.
Yeah. That's where our friendship was solidified.
that's-
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So we pitched the idea to Wendy, and we're like, hey, like, we know it's not conventional, but like, we didn't take pre-production. We just came up with this thing over like 3 weeks of winter break, working our asses off. And there's two of us working on the same thing, and we know you don't usually do that in post-production either, but like, we really want to do this, and we need a class. Will you let us do this? And basically, she said yes because I guess, you know, they have problems with post-production. There are plenty of seats open, so
Yeah.
we got in the class really easily.
Because people don't actually want to
No,
animate.
nobody wants to
Unless
animate.
you're us, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
unless you have the heart. So she let us in, and I guess Chuck had kind of convinced her to let us in too, because the next day she was like, yeah, Chuck was telling me at home, like, you gotta let these guys do it. Like, they have a really cool idea. And thank you
cool.
for that.
Yeah.
And so that whole semester, oh man, that was a 9 a.m. class, which means getting up, you know, early and driving, spending 2 hours in traffic, coming over and animating. So we would get in class, me and Dave would sit next to each other, and it was animating blind. We hadn't filmed yet.
Yeah.
And I was animating blind, and he would then composite my animations onto the live action film. And that's basically what the majority of post-production was spent. And then one weekend I went out to Fontana, and we filmed the whole thing in one day. We got his nephew to be the kid, his friend to be the wife, and I was the dad. He never
nice.
saw my face, though.
Yeah.
And we filmed it in one day on my little iPhone, and the rest is history. No.
Yeah.
That's where we got the footage, and then we composited onto that, and then we won the film festival, which is so dope. I look back at that. I just looked back at that footage. You're on stage too, aren't you? Because I was my sister had filmed it on like Snapchat, so she's zooming in, and like I pause it. I tried to zoom. I'm like, that looks like Ben's outline. Wait a minute, it's too pixelated. I can't tell.
Yeah. Look for the sideburns.
Yes. Look for the burns. It burns. But yeah, we ended up winning the film festival award, which was super cool.
That was awesome.
Two dudes who like didn't take pre-production, just kind of worked their asses off during winter break, and then in a haze tried to animate it during spring, ended up winning an award. It was really cool.
Yeah,
we
that was
look we
awesome.
look back at that film though and we're like, oh god, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
But the rest of us, I remember because, like you said, I was there.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that film.
did
Like,
you?
it was probably my favorite one of
Oh,
that
thank
year.
you.
Yeah, it was so
Aw.
good. And I think, the fact that you guys did the live action mixed with animation was super strong. The story was really strong. Because when I know you guys are super comedy. But that one's really a drama.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm sure that, like, doing it for that contest
yeah.
probably really helped get it in that direction.
Yeah.
So how did that end up? Did you ever?
We
get
didn't
that?
win.
Yeah.
We didn't win. You can look up the thing that did win. It's really good. It's nice. I like our concept way better though.
Oh, really?
It's really pretty animation, but I think it's boring.
You got story. You got heart.
Yeah, we got the hot kid.
Yeah.
We got hot.
Yeah. So you were working with David on that,
Yeah.
and then this is where all of us really got together and started working on projects. It was Toon Therapy, but before it was
yeah.
called that, it was David's film at Sony, which I
Yes,
talked
yes.
about with Joel, but you were on that too. So I want to hear what you did on it and your experience there, because you did a lot.
I mainly swept the floors. No. Yeah. So Joel already talked about we were fortunate enough to animate a short with Sony and Me Too. Not Me Too movement. MITU. Me Too.
Yes,
You can look them up.
I can't say it right, but
Me Too?
Yeah,
I don't
Me
know.
Too.
That's
Yeah,
my
I don't
guess.
know.
I'm too white.
Yeah.
Once again, this is your captain, just letting you know that these guys are pretty white, and this is another good reason why you should listen to episode 5 of the Joel Zamudio podcast. Captain out.
The film is called La Piñata, and my job was production manager and then animation. It feels like so long ago. It was just earlier this
Yeah,
year.
it was
you know?
at the beginning of
It'll
this
be
year.
a year. It'll be a year
Wow.
since we started that. Yeah, so Dave was fortunate enough to get into Sony and thus bring a team on, which comprised of me, you, Ben,
Yes.
David, Joel, Daniela, and
Miguel.
So my role, was production manager and animator.
What does production management mean? Sorry if you were going to say something else.
My job was to divide the length and the shots between us, all the team members. So, it was to get a shot count, basically, and then to divide how long the entire film was, divided by how many weeks we had, divided by how many people were working on it, thus how many seconds of animation each of us individually needed to complete per week. It's just a bunch of math,
Yeah.
basically.
Just bring back that graph editor.
Yes,
Kinda say-
bring it back. But the challenging thing is that that number would always change because they were always Sony was saying you should edit out the ending, keep the ending, just change it. So that number was always changing to more animation or less animation. So it was a challenge, but it was fun. So yeah, my job was just making sure everybody was on their deadline tasks, make sure they got done on time, make sure they had what they needed, and information was being distributed. Of course, that was my first time, so there were hiccups, as expected. Just hopefully I get better down the line.
Oh, yeah.
But,
well, I mean, we had 4 weeks to make this or something crazy.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was really ridiculous.
There wasn't a lot of time.
And then you're having to deal with people, which,
Yeah.
that's not something we animators do. We just kind of draw, at least, I don't know, I'll speak for myself. I just draw on my piece of paper. I don't think about anybody else on
No.
the planet. And then all of a sudden you're having to organize all these people and do it in a very tight
Yeah.
deadline. That's a lot of work. And then you had to animate on top of that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
did you color your own animation?
I did.
Yeah, okay.
I foolishly... Well, okay, I colored half of mine, and then Daniela and Miguel were very nice enough to help me out towards the end, because I had to redo 2 shots of, I think it was the push-ups and the pull-ups I had to redo.
Oh, yeah.
And at that time, I had messed up my finger really bad, and I couldn't draw
Yeah.
that much, and it really... Don't crack your... If you want to be an animator, don't crack your fingers. I cracked it so much that I damaged it,
Oh, man.
and it was really painful to draw.
Oh.
So don't do that, guys. So Daniela and Miguel were nice enough to help me color and finish the animation. I just had to rough it. So yeah, it was animating and production, dealing with everybody. Like, there were definitely challenging points, but I think I learned from it.
Yes, everyone should check out La Piñata.
Yes.
It's on Mitu's channel, I think.
Yeah, I think if you just search up La Piñata, it'll pop right up. Don't watch any others though. Just the one that says "Me Too."
Yeah.
Give us the views.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now after that project, I know Joel talked about this on his, but like we got together and we're like, hey, let's just keep making stuff.
Yeah.
So you were just an animator on, and this is I think your like fourth style of animation coming up right here that we talked about in the podcast, and that's 2D puppet animation on Anticlimactic Guy. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So we ended up forming that group, Toon Therapy, and it's everybody who was on that film is now part of this studio we founded. It's really dope. You should check us out.
Yes.
And the first collaborative film we did was ACG. It was Joel's and Mudio's. He pitched this idea of Anticlimactic Guy about this dude whose endings don't end how you think they will. Mm-hmm. And so basically turning that into my fourth style of animation. It was puppetry through After Effects, which I had never done. And it wasn't hard, but it wasn't easy. It was nice that I didn't have to redraw stuff, and I had this 2D character that was moving in this world we created. There is like a little graph editor in After Effects.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
About.
I didn't know that.
I looked it up and I opened it and I was like, this looks like the graph editor. Like, there's a graph here and you can move it. There's that's in there. You can
that would help.
You can do that in there. But yeah, figuring that out was like Joel is so nice. I watched his tutorials on how to do it, and God bless him. Those helped out a lot. Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, shout out.
Yeah, Joel,
Go listen to his podcast. I don't remember what number it is.
It's 5.
His tutorials helped, and learning about puppetry from that was really fun. It was a different, like I said, never stop learning. You know.
And then transitioning now, so as Toon Therapy, we're all kind of coming up with our own ideas and films.
Yeah.
And you've got some great ones that have been in the works for a long time.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about those, I remember in the class where we really got to talking was in the stop motion one. You'd come up with this whole beach story.
Oh yeah.
And this dude with the metal detector like finds this lady's toe ring and all this stuff. And that I feel like kind of evolved into this show that you have now called JG's.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Sure. So I was developing a show called Junior Guards JG's, and it's a show about two kids that are working, their summer job is to work at a lifeguard tower. And it's sort of similar like to where I grew up. Like, we're interviewing right now in Manhattan Beach. That's where I mostly grew up, and most of my summers were spent on the beach. And although I never did junior guards, I had tons of friends that did do junior guards, and I would always see them running, and they would say hey, and they'd be doing their drills and their thing. And why not pull inspiration from real life and to make something personal? So JD's, these two kids who are assigned to a lifeguard tower, and their lifeguard at the tower, who's working the tower, is this kind of like incompetent old man, but he knows his stuff. He knows what he's doing. And so it's his kind of goofy character mixed with the girl character who's been working at a lifeguard tower for all her summers. Her name is Rach. And she's kind of like the seasoned young lifeguard. She's still a junior guard, though, and she knows what she's doing, and she wants to carry on this great legacy of lifeguards. And then also assigned to her tower is this other kid, a boy named Flip, and he kind of joins the junior guard just for, the summer money, and being a junior guard during a summer, that's your job, that's a cool thing to do versus like being a cashier, not knocking cashiers at all.
Yeah.
I used to be a cashier.
So he's kind of like the laid-back guy who he wants to do this for the heck of it, to say he did it, basically. He's not really into the tradition of what it takes to be a lifeguard. And thus, hopefully, lessons in hilarity ensues,
Yeah.
They learn how to be lifeguards through their mistakes and have fun on the beach. And I've got some episodes outlined, not written, but outlined, and I'm still working on it.
And you've done some boards.
Yeah, I've done some boards and tests. The hidden test, I think that was one that Wendy assigned. Remember,
Yeah.
she was like a character has something to hide.
Yes.
I did one with that, and it features the stop motion guy I made, the metal detector guy. He finds this ring.
It's the Cassady verse.
Yes.
It's all in
It's my
the universe. Yeah.
Yes, they all live as one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the JG's gist. The gist of JG's.
Ooh, I like that alliteration.
Yes.
That's cool. And then too, you were just pitching to me, and I think you have some stuff coming up soon for these holiday characters idea. I'm really into it, and the animation we talked about at the very beginning of this was a bit of that. So could you talk about that for a second?
I'm excited. I was excited for JG's, but I'm also excited for this one, just because like it's so abstract and different, you know. Right now, the show is called Holiday Notions. I don't know why, just called Holiday Notions, and it's a world where holidays, whether it's Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, 4th of July, Easter, any holiday you can think of, basically holidays live among us through these like living spirits, like, but they're real. So like representation of Christmas is a living Christmas tree. Living embodiment of Halloween is a big jack-o'-lantern. Thanksgiving is a talking turkey. Valentine's Day is a big old heart. And like 4th of July might be like a frat boy, like Uncle Sam, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna shot, dude, let's shotgun another beer. Or he'll be an old man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like old man Uncle Sam.
Somewhere in I
Yeah.
think do both.
Do both. Yeah, there's two Uncle Sams basically.
That's amazing.
Uncle Sam and Nephew Sam.
Nephew Sam.
We got it right here.
There
You heard
it
it
is.
first.
Yes.
So basically, like these characters live among us, and they're like B-list celebrities. So basically, like the log line it goes along here. I have the log line.
Yes,
I
pull it
can
up.
read it.
Yeah. And for those who don't know what a log line is, it's basically just a quick like sentence on what your show's about. Kind of. I mean, that's a terrible way to describe it, but that's all I got. No one's paying me.
No, you tell them that. So I wrote like a bunch of log lines, and you're not going to get it on your first try. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and your log lines are going to change versus like when something happens in your story, it could totally change everything. So right now, the log line I'm going with is, with the high expectations of the holidays, living up to those expectations can be challenging for living spirits. So it's like
Nice.
living up to these expectations of what Christmas or Halloween should be is quite the challenge for these representations of that day. So it's kind of like, I was thinking originally like it should be like a BoJack Horseman kind of feel, like where you have these different characters living in a human world, and I kind of want that, but I'm still figuring out who the characters are. Like Christmas, you know, that's typically represented by cheer and everybody's happy to see each other, but maybe Christmas would be opposite. He's kind of sick of feeling that way, and he's tired of people expecting so much from him, when really it relies on the individual to make Christmas happen. You know, it's not all on him. And, you know, Halloween is, you know, you dress up, you party a lot, and I kind of want the jack-o'-lantern character to party a lot, but maybe she feels empty inside. It's just not fun. Like, things are changing, you know? And kind of like, but like the Thanksgiving turkey, like he'll kind of be like Uncle Iroh from
Avatar?
Yeah. He'll be like the wise one, basically. Like,
Yeah.
He kind of sticks to his persona of, you know, being thankful. Like he pretty much is probably the only one who sticks to his expectation.
Yeah.
But that's not to say he doesn't have his struggles.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm figuring out this world where these holidays can fit in and what kind of situations they'll get into.
That's awesome, man.
Thanks.
So then for those two shows, would they be animated in 2D? Would they be 3D? Would you combine live action with animation like you've done in the past?
I'm leaning a lot towards 2D just because I love it. It's our original love, a 2D show. I'm really digging, like with what you're doing with your stop motion transformation now. Like I want to do like, I want to play with a stop motion set but animate 2D onto it. I want to test a live action with the 2D composite onto it. So like, what I want to do, I'm not sure. I just maybe I'll test it all out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited.
That's awesome, man. And I think it's an interesting thing that has kind of been throughout your artistic career, is kind of looking at it from a different angle. Like, oh, I love art, but maybe, animation, or like, 3D seems to be the thing, but I really like hand-drawn 2D animation. Then the film with David, where you're like, well, everyone always does it this way. What if we teamed up and did a live-action hand-drawn animation combo? And then now, even still, you've done a test with JG's, even where it was hand-drawn and live-action, and then, and then doing all those different kinds of animation. You've done a little stop-motion with me. You've done a little puppet animation, 2D. You've done 3D animation like we talked about, and of course hand-drawn. So with all of that and kind of your like unconventional, you know what I mean, like kind of way of looking at it, which is what I really like about it.
Oh, thanks,
about
man.
your work.
I got my hands in a bunch of different cookie jars.
That's right.
That's what I'm doing.
No, that's a good way of looking at it. They're all sweet. They're just different flavors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So looking now into the future and what projects you have, like, what do you want to do? Like, are there things that you haven't tried yet that you really want to do, or or even in storyboarding as well?
I don't know. It's just like the possibilities are so endless. You could do so much. Like, not having to do with animation, which sounds weird to talk about, but like I want to do live action stuff too. Like I think that stuff is so much fun. Like, I just think I used to do in high school. Like they would always give us the choice of you can either present your project, to the class and talk about it, or you could film yourself and talk about it. And I would always just film myself and talk about it. So I would create movies. And like I would interview myself, or like I remember doing this on this book, and I played the woman. Like it's so like that stuff is so much fun, and like I just love creating bloopers. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
like it's just like when you get to have fun at what you do, it's the best. So what do I want to do next? Let's just combine it all. Like David had this really cool idea that I would love to run with too. It's where you make a film and it starts off as like 2D, then it moves into stop motion, then it moves into 3D, then it comes into live action. Like, but it's all one character. He's just transitioning. Like to piggyback off his idea, like that's freaking cool. So I don't know. I think the next step probably is that, but also we're in an exciting age of VR. VR is a whole new frontier. Like. I took that class with Miguel and Napoleon and Mark and
shout out.
I forget who else.
Vicky was in that class.
Vicky was in that class. Yeah.
That was the class I wasn't in. You guys all took. Yeah.
Yes, the one after stop motion. We created the VR game in that class, and that was so cool. And like my job was to implement 2D animation into the VR world. So. Somewhere in that direction, like just combining and collaborating with different people, I think.
Yeah,
that's why I like doing therapy so much, because like you get to collaborate. Like you can do it on your own, and you're only going to get so far. But when you have an outsider's view or like a friend's view, you get more.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're exactly right. Like projects that like wouldn't have been made otherwise. Like Joel doesn't really animate, or now he does, but he didn't really like to animate, and then he has us, so we can animate his ideas.
Yes.
And you've got these great ideas coming up that soon, hopefully, we'll be able to hop on those. So then, with that in mind, what advice would you give to students or people who, they've seen The Lion King and they love it, but they don't know how to get into animation or storyboarding? Like, what advice would you give to them?
So, like, if you're just starting out and you know nothing, like I did, and I'm assuming you have a computer, just research. Like, even if it just means going to Google and typing in animation in general, that will lead you to somewhere. Like, go to your library. Oh gosh, before I had my iPhone, I would go to the library here and I would check out every book on animation and read it. And I think it was like The Art of Animation. I think it was a Disney book.
Yeah.
That was so cool. And then that led me to another book, which led me to another book, which is the same thing on the computer. Like, you can research and research. And that's hopefully one of those things leads you to a school, whether it's online or in person, like Cal State Fullerton or AmSWAT. So, and like we were saying earlier, it's just a matter of drive. Like, what, do you have this in you? Like, do you just think it's cool to think it's cool, or do you think it's cool because you want to do it, thus you're going to do something about it?
Yeah.
So, my advice is that it's on you to make it happen, and there's plenty of stuff out there for you to make it happen. So, take the time, look it up, read, create, write, start writing.
Yeah.
Like, animation isn't just drawing. Start writing, create your ideas. Like, put stuff on paper. Like, spark. All you need is that little spark. Spark it with something.
Yeah.
And hopefully, it ignites a fire. That's my advice.
That's awesome, man.
Thanks.
And it's cool to see that in your work, too. Like, I mean, you did that with David over, like, an intense 3 weeks and then an intense semester. And then there you are at the film festival getting an award.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool, man.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah,
it's worth it, guys. I'm still looking for a job, but it doesn't mean I'm stop working, stop creating.
Yeah.
It's all on you, And we're doing something I think it's pretty amazing right now. We have a studio ourselves. Like, Ben is okay. Harmonica that out.
Yeah.
But he knows what he's doing. He's creating, and his stuff only gets better, and my stuff only gets better because of him. Like.
Yeah, no, seriously, like, having all you guys look over my work has really improved it, and just to be inspired, too, like, all the ideas you have, and like you were saying, talking to David about things he wants to do in the future might change your future. Like, I think that's really cool that we have that going right now.
Totally.
And so as people are out there researching about animation and stuff, where can they go to find your work?
Oh, where can they go? Well, I'm usually standing on the corner. You can check out Instagram's huge, so you can look at my Instagram. That's got a lot of art on it. It's Cass_PIX pics, so Cass pics. You can go on to my website. I'll have to send you the link.
It's like CassadyBlake-Christo.verb.com or something like that. Yeah.
There's that. You can check out the Toon Therapy website and the Toon Therapy Instagram. So
yes, I'll have to get you guys to send me the link to the website. I couldn't find it in my super quick search.
I know. Google's like, that's not important enough to showcase.
Yeah. But it will be.
It will be.
It will be. Due to these projects that you're doing. So thanks for talking with me today about projects you're doing, and it's always a good time to just hang out with you, man. I love hanging out.
Oh man, I feel the same about you.
Yeah.
And we're wearing. Okay. Sorry.
Yes.
I know this was the ending, but I want to talk about it.
Yes, go for it.
When Ben and I were in Wendy's class, it was a 2-day-a-week class, right? At least once every 2 or 3 weeks, we would show up wearing almost the same outfit.
Yeah.
And that happened today.
Yeah.
We are both wearing a Mickey, Donald, and Goofy shirt.
We
are.
It's
Amazing.
We aren't wearing the same pants this time.
No, not the same pants this time.
They were exactly the same pants. I think
They
same
were.
size.
They were. You're like, no way. And we sat next to each other, too. It was great.
Oh, yeah. Well, dude, thanks again for talking with me. I super appreciate it.
I'm glad you had me on. I was looking forward to this.
Wow. And that was the first podcast of the new year, 2019. Hello!
Yeah, on the shortest day of the year, the greatest podcast of the year. We've got so many great podcasts coming up this year, and I am super excited. But that's not to negate the great stuff that we did have in this podcast, like this new sound effect we have.
That was awesome.
Is that like a pot with water in it?
I couldn't even tell you. I wasn't there.
Yeah. It probably picked up like homeless people on the street outside. Like it picked up everything. Okay.
If only it could pick up me being there for the podcast.
Yeah. But I really liked what Cassady had to say about animation.
I agree. I think there's always that debate between whether you should go to school or learn on your own. And I think that what's almost more important than either of those choices is the research. If you need to go to school to force yourself to do the research, do it. But if you are self-motivated to go research on your own, I think that is extremely important into figuring out what art form you would enjoy most, or even just helping to sharpen your skills.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's cool about it, is that research is what led Cassady to animation and what pushes him now today, right? With pushing the art form, both storytelling and visually.
Yeah, and I think all of us as artists, we have to remember that everything we do is off the backs of those that have come before us. And so I think in a way it's important to push the art form. It's important to try to carry it forward, not even just for ourselves and our self-expression, but for the generation who's going to be built off of the accomplishments that we do.
Yeah, no, that's a great cheesy transition into something I just thought of, which is we're looking at a new year. It's 2019 now. What do you want to do with the podcast in this new year?
That is a great question. I think personally for me, I would just like to reach more people. I know that sounds cheesy and self-branding, but what I mean by that is that I think there's a whole bunch of people who want to be part of an art community, but maybe don't know how. And with this podcast, we're able to reach those listeners. We're able to let them know, hey, here we are. Here's a place where you can gather and you can converse with one another and meet other people interested in things that you're interested in.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this might sound a little self-serving as well, but one thing that I want to learn about in this coming year, and maybe we could do a series on this in the podcast, is how to start your own studio. And this last year, 2018, I had the privilege of meeting a lot of different people who started their own studios. With a couple of friends of mine, we kind of started our own studio, which Cassady was talking about in this episode, Tune Therapy. So I would love to learn more about that, and I think our listeners might be interested in that as well.
Yeah, in fact, we would love to take suggestions from listeners like you in the kinds of things that you'd like to hear us talk about, whether it's just us bantering about the latest art trend in who knows what field, or maybe there's something you're interested in that we can do the research for, that we can bring to the table.
Yes.
I had nothing more to add to that.
And no, that's a great point, Christian. And you can reach us at our new email. It's upcomingartistpodcast@gmail.com. For some reason, I dropped the "and." It was a long day when I made this, okay?
And if you're a millennial, you can also reach us at our new Instagram account.
Yes, the Up and Coming Artist Podcast.
We'd like to hear feedback from you guys. I mean, the fact that this podcast is a little louder was thanks to some feedback from our listener, Tony.
Yeah, that's awesome. So thanks, Tony, and thanks, everyone, for listening. We hope to bring you more fun this next year in the podcast. And, Christian, how are we going to sign off?
Get married. I did it. Well, kind of. Dang it.